The DJ Roundtable show is live. It's the DJ Roundtable show.
It is Tuesday night. It is 8 o'clock. You know where your DJ's at. I know where I'm at. I'm here with you. It is another DJ Roundtable show. And as always, we are glad to have everyone here. And Pete was just coming in and asking how everyone's doing. I know I'm doing good. Is everybody else doing good? Thumbs up for everyone who's doing good. Thumbs up.
Hanging in there. Hanging in there.
Hanging in there. Jeff is hanging in there. Hunter went to go grab, I guess, something to eat. So is Matt. Matt is having dinner. Of course, it's on the West Coast. It's only like 6 o'clock out there, and here in the Midwest, it's 8 o'clock. So we are much later. And now Hunter's bringing his dinner in. He's going to share and buy everyone here dinner next week because he wants to bring his food in. He's got to share. Matt's got the week after.
I'll ship it to you.
Yes,
there you go. He's going to ship In-N-Out Burger to Chicago, so that would be really good with the post office.
Grubhub it, DoorDash.
There we go. DoorDash it. And that would be a little bit of a ride. So again, if you're here to the show, thank you for coming in. First thing first, I want to thank all the people who have subscribed to the channel. Greatly appreciated, and always love the fact that people coming in when they can and watch a show. If you're watching over here on Twitch, please make sure you're following the channel because we always have lives on Tuesday, except for holidays and stuff like that. If you're watching over on YouTube, help me slay that beast. It's a mean beast, and that beast is, let me say, is a monster. The big bad thing with it, it likes to hide the show because of algorithms, and we want to buck that trend. So make sure you come along and hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check your bell icon, and also share the video with someone because that helps the channel grow. And as always, we appreciate you for watching. We appreciate your comments down below. So please make sure you put down anything you want to say. We might hear your critiques, criticism, tomfoolery, or anything else you want to say down below because we greatly appreciate it. And I read all comments. I try to answer back if an answer is needed. And I will give you a thumbs up and a thank you, a little heart, and say thank you so much for coming in and watching the show. With that said, we're going to start the show tonight, and this is one of the things that I've been talking to a few DJs about, and it is sound. Sound to me is very important as a DJ, obviously, and we have many different tools at our at our backing. We can come along and use a small, simple speaker to a huge monster system, flying arrays and trucking in subwoofers and running off a generator off the back of a truck. We have different systems we use. So I want to give you guys a scenario, and I want to hear your 2 cents on it. And I'll give you my, my feelings of it first. A wedding is a social event, and Brian S. Red said the best thing about it. It is a social event, and he did a video about wedding and lighting and stuff like that a while back. And I believe the same thing, Brian, that people are there to gather to enjoy each other, as well as there to celebrate, have a party, enjoy themselves. But you also have people, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, whomever it is, in the back of the room who want to have a conversation or two. Maybe they haven't seen someone for a bit and they want to talk, or maybe want to do stuff. I do feel that energy in a dance floor is very good. And I do feel that that's an important thing to kind of keep the energy on the dance floor. And you do want to entice people away from the bar and from photo booth or whatever else to come and join you. But the thing is that you also don't want to be overburdened with a system. And by that, you don't want to have a system that is so crazy, so ludicrous with levels and volume that it creates a lot of headaches. And what I mean by that, you don't want to have people come up to you and say, can you turn it down? Can you do this? Can you do that? So if you had a wedding for less than 100 people, we're going to hit a number of 35, 50, 70 people. Groups like that, smaller weddings, which I do, and you have a dance floor. We're not talking ceremony. We're not talking cocktail hour in another room. We're talking everything in one room, far as reception side. So ceremony could have been in another room, could have been at a church, could whatever. We're talking about the reception. So cocktail, speeches, dinner music, dancing afterwards. Standard fare, basically. And if you were doing that, do you use a subwoofer or not? And I would say no. And I've done tons of weddings without a subwoofer. And the reason why, with two-way cabinets, as well as I switched over years ago to arrays, and yeah, they do have a subwoofer, but the thing is that I also have a couple different sizes. I have Maui 5s for a smaller wedding like that. I have RCFs, and I have DB. So I have a couple different ways I can go depending on what I need, how much horsepower I need. But on a standard small wedding, I would use my PRX. I would use maybe Eons, depending on what's called for. And again, PRX, Eons, they're pretty powerful speakers. SRX, even more powerful, which I had. But I would do two tops, two-way tops. And, again, dance floor, bass is there. Now, some people do argue the fact that because you don't have a subwoofer, you're not going down to frequencies like 30 and 40 hertz, which it's great for a club. It's great for, a school dance. But for a wedding, I feel that it could be overkill, especially a small wedding. And again, 35, 50, 70 people. Do you really need a subwoofer for that? Or, again, do you feel a two-way cabinet is more than enough for a small wedding? Now, again, if you're doing a big wedding, huge giant room, doing 300 people, most definitely. And again, I believe subwoofers are not for every event. You can get events without subwoofers. You can do events with a regular two-way cabinet. So I'm going to start off with actually Brentley first, because I know he has a lot of systems and has done professional sound for a band and so forth. What is your 2 cents on that? Would you do a smaller event without subwoofers and just go with 2 tops and do it that? Or would you say, no, I need to have a subwoofer?
It depends on the event and what the couple is asking from me, to be perfectly honest. Now, I'm a big proponent of the right pieces of equipment for the job at hand. And one of my wedding logs from last December, it was super small, and I used my Maui 5s. More than adequate for that event. There were 60 people there for the ceremony, and for the dance, 35, 40 people. So for something that, micro and small, there is unless they're 35, 40 people that want to get down, there's no need to bring out the full system. However, there's been weddings that, we knew they were going to be less than 100 people in a big room, and they're like, yes, we want dubstep, we want EDM, bring your gear. If they say so, 100% it's coming out. There's no way around it, especially if I'm pushing, as Matt would say, you can't play, if you don't got subs with dubstep, what's the point? Or, certain EDM songs that he's dropping at weddings, you need that sub. It's just not going to have the same effect. So it truly depends on what kind of wedding they're looking for. And like you said, anything over 100, 150 people, and for me, if it's over 150 people, I would rather bring the full side, 2 mains, 2 subs, and err on the side of caution, and rather have the power and never need it, rather than be like pushing everything to its limits that I shouldn't be doing. So if I'm over 100 heads, and that's why I went with the Maui 5s. I'm not using them for every wedding, by all means, but if it's less than 100 people, and even that's debatable, because I've had weddings that start off like the one on Saturday I just did, 125 people to start, but both bride and groom and myself knew as soon as I turned music on for the dance, everybody over 60 was out the door. We were down to 60 people like that. And so it's kind of knowing what else is going to be expected, what their guests' age groups are going to be. So you can delve into that and go, oh, they have half their guests are over 60. I don't need to bring the real system out. They're going to book anyway, and I'm going to be playing to half of what was originally there. And a lot of that can be sorted out and figured out in your preemptive conversations with your couples, which I was watching two DJs and a mic just a little while ago, and Mitch Taylor brought up this point that once you've delved into all this planning of it all, you should know exactly what you need, what gear, and not just from your venue site, but based on who's going to be there as well, months before you show up, which is a great thing, that, little nugget he just dropped earlier tonight. So there you go.
And that's the thing, is that knowing what your clientele wants to have, that's always the thing to work out. But again, you had the Maui 5. I know Pete has the Maui 5. I have the Maui 5. So I know three of us have the Maui 5 here. And I know Dwayne's got he's got a raise. He's got the Harbinger raise, which are kind of equal to the Maui 5s. So you have stuff there that is not super high power, like a two-way top and 18-inch subwoofers, that you can do a smaller event with and not worrying about blowing everyone out, but still having an energy to do stuff. The other thing is that, again, two-way cabinet, again, I know guys who have K12s. Again, I ran my JBLs. I still have my PRX. They're in storage. And when I had weddings, 100 people, they're 15-inch, so they're PRX 615s, crown amplifier. That 15-inch woofer would hit pretty decently. And if I went to an SRX, only for like the bigger weddings, those SRXs would hit hard. I did a wedding at a large wedding hall here. The biggest wedding I did, 360 people with two PRXs and a single subwoofer. And was my Yorkville Dual 10 subwoofers. And that sounded phenomenal, not just on the dance floor, but further into the room as well. But it wasn't overpowering when you got to the bar. You still hear the music, you can still hear the thump, but it wasn't crazy over there. So people who wanted to sit back and talk, they could, as well as people who came forward and wanted to dance, they got all the energy and power they wanted to. So something like that, yes, I would definitely say subwoofers are needed. You're outside, a big event, a school event. But when you're doing a small wedding, two 10-inch, what ZLX 10s or ELX 10s, whatever EV is, or a pair of 10-inch speakers or 12-inch speaker would cover and give good energy and good sound. And do you need a subwoofer? Again, I don't feel you need a subwoofer with that small amount of people, with 50 people or 40 people or 30 people. But yet again, DJs tell me that if I don't run a sub, I'm leaving out frequencies that people are not going to hear, that may not hear it or even care that it's there or not there. They're there to enjoy and have fun and party. It's not a THX surround sound system or a Dolby Digital surround sound system at home where you're trying to watch like Terminator 2 or the newest movie on Netflix. So that's a thing you have to kind of do. So I'm going to go next to actually to Pete, who also has the Maui 5s, like I said before. Pete, for you, a smaller wedding, again, Maui 5s on the side, but would you do like a 50-person wedding with a subwoofer or no subwoofer?
I pretty much don't use subwoofers at all. Actually, because I don't have any. I think I've done one wedding with a subwoofer that wasn't included in the speaker in the EV50s.
Can you
had
turn your volume
anybody
up just a
complain-
tad?
Is this better?
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Closer to the mic. You work in radio, you should know this. I don't use subwoofers. I've never really had any reason to. I do weddings up to I've done weddings up to 150 people. If it gets a really big crowd, I double the amount of tops, and I might, lower the high ends on one of the tops. But other than that, I've never really used them. I've been to a wedding that has used them, and the subwoofer with the subs, and I couldn't understand what the guy was saying on the mic. And I don't know if he just had the subs up too high or if he didn't have the tops up high enough. Now, using the Maui 5s, I've actually been gun shy about using them for actual reception. I use them for ceremonies, really. But I've been gun shy about using them for receptions, even into the smaller ones at Parkway.
I will tell you, about a third of the weddings I do, again, they're basically 130 or less, and in a decent sized room, I will use Maui 5s. I never had anyone complain about they're too quiet or anything. 120 SPL also makes you behave too, because I do see the light once in a while blink over there, the little red light blink, and I'm like, okay, but it's keeping me so I'm not overdriving and going,
Right.
hey, let's add distortion. Hey, let's do this. Let's back it off a little bit, and let's make sure we keep it pleasant for people. But I definitely would say, Pete, the Maui 5s, I would definitely recommend doing that. And I told Brian the same thing. He's done some gigs with them, and I use them all the time for gigs. I love the Maui 5s. They're a great speaker. And Bradley, you've used them what, once or twice?
I've probably done 6 weddings with my Mauis. Now, I won't lie. When I first got them, because I got them in both black and white, I did bring both sets with me, because if I was feeling like I made the mistake of not having enough firepower, I could, run parallel cable out and go straight down, and balance it out where their throws are almost correct and get enough volume to cover what I needed. And there was one day when I just couldn't, I went to go lift my subs, and I just couldn't do it. My back's like, you're not doing this today, kid. And so I didn't really have the choice in the matter, because I knew if I couldn't lift my subs, I wasn't getting my 2-ways on top of a speaker stand either, or on top of a sub pole. So at that point, I brought 4 Maui's 5s, and honest to God, it just, only thing I personally felt it was lacking a little bass. But the coverage I got for the 50 or 60 people in this rather large dance area worked perfectly. Would I want to do it again? Probably not. But at that point in time, I didn't have any options. My back wasn't letting me lift more than like 20 pounds. So we were done that day.
The thing is that the Maui is an 8-inch woofer. It hits pretty good. It's not good deep rumbling bass like an 18 or a 15.
No.
It's not designed for that. But for nice, punchy, good bass, and it's I'd say a little more than mid bass, even though it's technically a mid bass, the 8. It is a nice, good hit of bass. Now, again, with 60 people covering a dance floor, again, not a problem. I've showed you guys some pictures. When we chat, video of weddings. I did a wedding last year. Big room, but 35 people. 2 Maui 5s wirelessly connected in the corners, off in the corners, the white ones. More than cover the room. I get people to come along and go, oh my God, that sounds so fantastic. And they can have conversations during dinner and stuff. But again, going back to it, on a 2-way cabinet, would I use a subwoofer on a small wedding? I would not. I see some people talking in the chat here. Let me get to the chat real quick. I see Mikey Mike. He said, hello, cool thing in Hitman. Adrian says, hello, kids. Hitman says hi to him. Crossfire's in there. Hey, what's going on? My British friend there. He's British, but actually moved here many years ago, and he's got a great accent. I'm going to have him on the show in not too distant future, because he's got this cool Southern accent for being Alabama and being in the U.S. Army, as well as living in born in Great Britain and come over here from the UK. So he's a really cool dude. I love talking to him. And I see Jared there. Hey, Jared, what's going on? How's Wisconsin? How's things up there? I also see Kevin. Kevin's there. Glad to be, you guys are going to be here. Midwest DJs. I know Brentley's going. I'm not. Pete, are you going to Midwest DJ Live?
No,
Okay.
I'm not going to make it this year.
And then I don't know, Adrian, if you're going there or not. Okay, Adrian says he's not able to attend. But yes, Midwest DJs Live. That is a upcoming event. and I
Yep.
will make sure. I know Brentley's been practicing and showing what he can do for DJing it, which would be interesting to see. But it is a meetup. It's coming up soon in Milwaukee, correct?
Last week in April, and last Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday in April in Milwaukee at the Hyatt, right around the corner from the Fiserv.
Pfizer Forum. Okay.
Yeah, and if the Bucks do well, it should be a great hop and party scene right around the time we're there. Not saying that I pick up a gig Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday while I'm there, but I would pick up a gig with one of my friends who DJs there and party one of those nights and really tie it in.
There you go. So there you go. There's some incentives there. If you want to hang out with DJ Brentley at Midwest DJs Live, again, it's the last last week of April, and
And
it
actually,
is.
if you want to go get some great speakers and educational foundation for what you're doing, it's a great, great opportunity for those of us in the Midwest or anywhere to, one, get some, resources, but two, network and meet with other people in the industry that we can learn from. Like, it got me into going there, opened up a whole new world of DJ aspect for me, which I'm still pursuing.
Well, the one other thing also we'll see if Brentley gets enough shots of Jaeger that he'll go streaking with his banana hammock through the fest, maybe.
I would do that without Jaeger. What are you talking about? I'll show up
There
to
you
a gig
go.
in a Speedo. I don't care. I
Jared,
have no
you heard
qualms.
it. You gotta hold him to it. I want to see video
So
of him
someone
running.
bring me a Borat, and I'm all about it.
He's got to be yellow banana
Bring
hammock
me the
guy
Borat.
running through the fest. All right. Next person I'm going to go to, I'm actually going to go to Matt because I know Matt loves his dual 18s and dual 21s and dual everything for subwoofers. But Matt, is there smaller events, smaller weddings you would do? Again, 50 people, 60 people, 70 people, 30 people. Would you use a subwoofer for them or just put up your two K12s or put up your two ICOA speakers or put up two Ruger speakers?
Uh, yeah, I've got a pair of 15s, the Stingers, and they're a bass reflex cabinet, so they do produce a good low end, and it does travel pretty far. So for like smaller weddings, or if I'm in a residential area, like this weekend, it was only, 60 people, and there were houses nearby. I didn't feel the need to bring a subwoofer, so that worked out. And then there's like another venue that we do that has brick everywhere, and bass frequencies just bounce like crazy. So I tried just running the two of my 15-inch tops on either side of the sweetheart table while I'm kind of over in the corner, and that worked like 10 times better. So um, obviously, yes, bigger weddings and bigger packages, and always all four subwoofers, but sometimes sometimes it doesn't make sense to bring them if you think it'll sound better without them. And also sometimes I'm just, if I'm over in the corner and I have to run 100 feet of extension cord or speaker XLRs, like, sometimes I just throw one dual 18 or whatever and just uh go into one speaker, out of that speaker into the other one, instead of running like a pair of subs and splitting this and splitting that, and like, yeah. So depends. Obviously for my bigger events and the bigger packages, they're paying for the dual subs, so they get the dual subs. Otherwise, yeah, that's it. You got to have the subs though. I mean, the I play a lot of EDM and dubstep and all that, and you really got to have that low hitting energy that you just don't get with a traditional top.
Well, again, and that's one of the things is knowing what you need to do and knowing what kind of event you're trying to do. But would you bring a dual 18 to a 35 person wedding?
No, no. I
And
just bring a single.
that's the thing. It's most DJs would be like, okay, 35, 50 people, 60 people, 70 people. All right, again, 100 people, depending on the room, maybe, again, it all boils down to what you're trying to do and what you're trying to come into, and that's the thing is that having the right equipment for the gig is an important thing. I'm gonna go over to Jeff, who's done a lot of school dances. He has the Maui 28s, right? The Gen 2s, and then he has regular
Correct.
two ways and has subs, and he could all fit it all in his Suburban.
That's the rule.
That's real. Has to fit in his Suburban. So if it doesn't fit in the Suburban, it gets left behind.
That's right. For a small wedding like that, I would probably just bring the Maui 28 Gen 2s. They would more than accommodate sound for 50 to nearly 100 people. Depending on the music and the age of the attendees, I might add a sub. If the music requires it, if it's a younger crowd and they've got a lot of hip hop requests, then yeah, I might throw a sub in if it's upwards of between 50 and 100. But for most times, I would just bring the Maui 28s. They got two 8-inch dual woofers in the sub cabinet, which they've got it tuned really well. It produces a lot of bass for two 8-inch woofers. It does a great job. And then you've got 16 3-inch mid-ranges in each array. So that produces a lot of sound, and it will fill a room, a large room. It will do it. Then they've got the two 1-inch tweeters on top of that. So each cabinet is really, with two cabinets, you're going to fill a room very easily with good sound and decent bass. Like I said, the only time I would bring my 18 is if the songs and the music choices required it. And obviously for different events, I'm bringing subs. For any school dance, I'm bringing at least one sub, maybe three. But yeah, small weddings probably don't need it.
All right, I'm going to go next to Chris. Chris, what about you, sir?
Small weddings, I think we're all in accordance that you really don't need a subwoofer. If you're going to bring 15-inch, 18-inch subwoofer to a small 50, 60, like a 75, I mean, what about the dynamic of the room, the placement of the room? You're just going to drown everybody out. If you're going to bring all that extra sound, it's going to give people headaches. It can be annoying, and we're rated on our sound as DJs. I mean, we're there to do a job, but I mean, all we do is play music. It's not what we all do. We want people to have quality sound. That's our person. I think that's all DJs think about, is having quality entertainment with a nice, clear, round sound that everyone can enjoy at once.
And Pete, I believe Pete said before he saw or been to a wedding where a DJ had subwoofer or subwoofers. And yeah, and it was so badly distorted that you could not understand what he was saying.
It wasn't distorted so much as the bass was just overpowering.
And that's
He probably wanted his EQ on his mic up on that bass, and he just doesn't realize that a DJ doesn't need bass in their voice. You really need highs for clarity to hear. He's probably EQ'd that incorrectly, his microphone.
Yep. And the thing is that, but I've seen that as well. Venues that have multiple weddings going on, that someone brings in, 4 18-inch subwoofers and 4 tops for a wedding that's 100 people, and it's like, this is you're bringing overkill for that. And those people are walking out. They're walking out. The ears are kind of bleeding, and it's like, it's to me, it's just overkill. Again, having subwoofers, a tool in the toolbox, that's fine. But again, I've done plenty of weddings with, again, 2 PRX or 2 Eons or 2 SRX speakers, and didn't dip into a subwoofer because I'm like, this is more than enough. And a 15-inch top does get down pretty deep in bass. Does it get as deep as a subwoofer? No. And one of the things also was, the thing we were talking about was a EV 12-inch top and a EV 12-inch subwoofer, which I'm like, you got 2 12s, you're not going really deep with a 12-inch subwoofer. You're adding some bass to it, but it's not as deep as like a 15 or 18. So it's kind of like, okay, I could see that for certain things, but this wedding was not a big wedding. And it's like I said, you don't need a subwoofer for every event. There's a lot of events, yes, some events, no. You have to see what fits, but also you have to understand sound before you do that. And so I've said it before, some people treat every event the same. They cookie cutter things and they have one tool in the toolbox. That tool is a hammer. Everything looks like a nail. And they're always trying to pound nails versus having the right tool for the job. Dwayne, I'm going to come to you next. What about you? What do you feel? And again, I know you don't have a ton of equipment, but I know you have the Harbingers. I know you have two-way tops. Do you have a subwoofer?
Yeah.
Would you use a subwoofer for, again, if you didn't have your arrays, you didn't have your Harbingers, would you use your tops without a subwoofer for a smaller wedding, for 60 people, for 70 people, for 30 people?
It does, to me, it's not about the number of people. It's about what kind of effect you want and whether or not the room is big enough. If the room is small, I wouldn't do that because it'd be overpowering. But if the room is a decent size, I'll bring a subwoofer. I even use a subwoofer with my column arrays because still, with just like playing EDM, hip hop and all that, everybody wants to hear that thump. But if it's for an older crowd, I'll probably stay away from the subwoofer. But if it's for a younger crowd, I'll definitely bring a subwoofer because it doesn't matter how many people it is. Because like when you play urban music in our neighborhood, we want to hear that punch. So it depends on what kind of effect I want and the size of the room, basically.
And again, we're playing scenarios with a lot of things here, and that's why this is great to have because you have to ask these questions. You have to figure things out and walk through things and decide, does this work or does that work? Is this for this or is that for that? And there's no two things about it. There's no two ways about things. And sometimes, less is more. Sometimes more is too much. And that's why you got to look at what is the outcome? What is the thing you're trying to do? But if you're having 30, 40 people and you have two good tops, do you need a subwoofer? Again, most of the time, I'm going to say no. My mic is cutting out. Is my mic cutting out, you guys?
No, you're perfectly clear for me.
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're good.
Mike, you might be having some hiccups there in your interwebs. I'm going to go
I know
to Hunter
Brett was
last
choppy
because
earlier.
Hunter, I know he doesn't have a subwoofer, but what do you think? What do you feel about, would you at 35 people, 50 people, 75 people, and again, you've been running without a subwoofer for a long time. Do you feel you need a subwoofer?
No. Well, with if I do like an outdoor wedding or if the venue is wider but still closed in, I would actually use a mixer, believe it or not. I would use my Yamaha MG10 mixer to get that extra boost in sound from the controller, my microphone, and really have that versatile bit of sound coming from the mixer from the JBL Eon 612s. And let me tell you, those Eon 612s really pack a punch, being 5-year-old 12-inch tops, and they still sound really good after all these years.
Okay. So you wouldn't do a
and I would-
subwoofer. You
I
wouldn't do a
wouldn't- I would-
subwoofer.
No, never. I
Okay.
never had the need to getting a sub because of how small to medium sized the venues really are here in South Carolina. They're really closed in, and if I add a sub, it's going to be overkill, way overkill. And of course, we have a thing called a sound ordinance, so I got to follow the sound ordinance, or else we're going to get in trouble at the weddings.
Yeah, we have sound ordinances here. I think everyone has sound ordinances you got to watch out for. That's that's always a fun thing. All right. So with that right there, I wanted to go back to Pete and stuff like that. Go back to a few people. When you saw the wedding with the guy with the bass that was distorting the highs and mids, Was that one of the venues that have multiple weddings going on, or is that what you're a guest at it?
I was a guest at a wedding, and I think it was a hotel.
Okay.
Um, so I think they had a couple different rooms going on. And it was a larger wedding, and you probably would have brought subs there. I just, again, he wasn't distorting. He was just being drowned out by the bass.
So heavy amount of bass that you can't hear what's going
Yeah.
on.
Right.
Yeah.
Pete, do you think that DJ, when he had all those subs plugged in and his tops, do you think he did not have his tops set to tops only or did full range? Do you think that also contributed to the extra bass that he was pushing?
That could have contributed. And again, I'm not going to say it was extra bass. I'm not going to say it was distorting. It's just that I don't think he had it balanced out correctly. And I don't think he realized that. It's hard to do a sound check when you're by yourself and you're out in front of your speakers and you're trying to figure out if you're at the right volume. But you're hearing yourself speak from within as well, so it's hard to balance it out. But I didn't want to be that DJ.
What, you didn't want to run up there real quick? Say, I'm a DJ. I know exactly what to do.
Yeah, I didn't. No, I didn't want to do. I don't do that. I'll just sit and point everything out to my wife, and she'll roll her eyes.
Well, it's like Tracy, because again, she goes to gigs with me. She's there. When we see things at venues, they have multiple weddings going on, or we hear about things from venue managers. It is always interesting hearing those stories and stuff like that. And you get a sense of sometimes some of these DJs, they don't research what they're supposed to do and don't understand how to do things. And again, the DJ with the bass being, a little powerful, was it, again, like Chris said, was it EQ'd wrong? Was it he didn't understand? So the question becomes, is it he didn't understand, didn't know what to do, he didn't research it, he's not educated, or he just doesn't care and thinks, redlining's headlining? And that's, again, you don't know it. I know, Pete, no one knows it here. It's like, we can't dissect it, can't bring the DJ in here, whoever he or she is, and ask them questions. And it's one of the things that I always ask. I have Tracy, and again, I have a couple of employees when we do bigger weddings. Is stuff sounding good? Does it sound good to them? It sounds good to me, but does it sound good to other people? And that, I think, it's a big thing. And I definitely would say, who here, I know a lot of guys here are single ops. Some people, I know Solstice has a couple helpers. Jeff brings his son once in a while with stuff. And I know Brentley sometimes has friends or stuff like that with them. But who here, when they're tuning up the system, they have their friend, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, walk out there and have them hear the music and have them see if it's sounding okay to them. Who here does that? Because I know I ask Tracy all the time to go out. Can you just listen to the music and see how it sounds?
Other way around.
Yeah,
I go out
I
and
go
listen
out
to
myself.
Yeah.
Well, I listen to it, but having that second pair of ears, it's like, getting double checked. Hey, does this sound good to you too? Or again, maybe they're hearing something you're not hearing. And the reason why I ask this is because talking to another DJ who has done a lot of festivals. So again, he's done a lot of events with speakers being flown, subwoofers, big stuff. And he basically said a lot of DJs have what's called a sound floor. And if you listen to stuff really loud all the time, your sound floor is up here. So you need to bring your volumes up to that level because you're used to it. It's kind of like, if you get used to something, if you're always doing it, you want this level. If you're used to a level that's lower, when you get to that level, you hit it and you're like, okay, I'm good. So the thing is that, I'm sorry, what?
I was going to say, and that's why I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but that's why DJs levels creep up during the course of an event because your ears get used to it at a certain level, and then you got to bring it up a little bit more to hear it even better. It's almost like a drug, right? You start out with a little bit, and the more you get used to it, the more you need.
Yep. So the
And
thing is that also that's the other thing people got to look at is what their sound floor is at. Do they start at one level and again they creep up a little more, or do they try to hold themselves to that level and say, okay, fine and great, let's try and keep this area. I try to keep it to the same so it's consistent. I always look at, and one of the things I talked about before is having a sound meter. I have an app on my phone. I have actually a separate sound meter and looking at your DB, you're putting it at your desk, at your booth, at your table, at whatever you're using, and seeing where you're at cocktail and dinner. Are you at in your area 60 dB, 70 dB, 80 dB? And the reason why it's kind of like blows to the room. Can you hear conversations going on during cocktail and dinner around you? Because when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, it's too loud," and I'm like, I can hear a conversation. These people are 10 feet away from me on the other side of the speaker. I can hear them talking. I can kind of understand what they're saying. I'm not trying to pay attention to what they're saying, but can I pick out words? Can I understand what they're saying? Then you can kind of say, okay, maybe they're a little sensitive in sound. Well, maybe I need to tweak something. But the thing is that, again, some DJs go, I got the volume all the way up, red lines headlining, they got ramped up, and they're so used to that they need to have this big, huge system, even for a small event. So I don't know if this DJ is
That's
like
why
that.
I use a floor monitor. If I need it that loud, I have my floor monitor. And more often than not, my floor monitor is ripping as loud as my mains are.
Who here uses a monitor with music? I know you do, Brentley. Matt, do you use monitor? Matt does. Who else uses a monitor? I use it here and there.
Only large events.
Jeff, okay. And
Very,
that's the
very
thing is
large
that,
events.
sometimes with a monitor, it does help if you're doing something at, a bigger event with stuff because you're not getting the
Well, I
slap
kind
on
of
the
do.
bass.
I kind of do because the Mixstream Pro has built-in speakers.
And that's the thing is that,
I use a monitor.
and that's the
Yeah,
thing
but
is that listening to it, if you're doing a big event, you want to have a monitor so you're hearing what's going out. You're not getting that slap of bass and getting thrown off in your timing. And it's not as much as now because a lot of guys read the waveform and they kind of match to that versus Pete, myself, Brentley. I'm thinking, who else is vinyl? Who started in vinyl? I started on vinyl. Brentley, you started on vinyl. Pete started on vinyl. So, the three of us started on vinyl. And the one thing with vinyl, like again, going back to this 90s for me, is you always are beat matching and you're always trying to beat match to what the crowd is hearing as much as possible. And I could tell you tons of times that, vinyl, there you go. Vinyl always works a little bit differently than MP3s. And, I always say a real DJ, if you throw two turntables in front of them and a mixer, if they can start beat matching there, they're good. And, I keep seeing these guys, oh, well, CDs. Oh, I saw some guy today. He's got CD players. He got CDs next to him. I've been DJing so long, you guys are in diapers. And I'm like, dude, those are CDs. I started before CDs. I had vinyl. I had milk crates.
Oh,
Where's
God.
the guy who's
please.
got the mixtapes?
Yeah,
Don't
I
remind
had
me of
mixtapes.
crates.
Oh.
Milk crates. Okay, so Bradley, what was your place for records?
In Chicago?
Yeah.
Because I worked at the record exchange. So anything I really needed that was top 40 or mainstream, I could order on Wax and have it the week it was released. When it came to the better house music, Gramophone, hands down. So those were the two places, especially when the mid 90s when I was DJing in downtown Chicago, you needed some of the popular house tracks like from the Out There Brothers, Fast Eddie, Rula, 20 Fingers, which were B96 in Chicago was playing at the time. But you also needed the BS top 40 dance music like Real McCoy, LaBouche, and the stuff that David Guetta is remaking now. So you needed all that on vinyl. And then to top it off, because Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, and all the industrial dance music was at that point in time charting. I still remember to this day, I'd gotten like this one woman would not stop asking me to play Nine Inch Nails Closer. I finally took my 12-inch of it and just smashed it on the 1200 and threw it. I'm like, I'm not playing it. I'm just not. You've asked me like 10 times in less than an hour. I don't even care about the
every
Did
6
I have
minutes,
a couple
huh?
I mean, and that's, back then that was, doing something illegal from underneath your turntable, going to the bathroom, getting a bottle of booze from the bar. But at this point, it was under an hour 10 times. And it's like, that's 94 beats a minute? 95 maybe? God, I remember that. And I'm up here at like 120. I've got to come back down to that. Give me a little bit. And especially at, like 11 o'clock midnight in downtown Chicago, when you're playing Booty Call, Lick It, Short D Man, Another Night, Love You More from Sunscream, and that it's not going to fit right there.
Yeah, Brantley, I had a DJ buddy who, I'm up in Lake County, Northern Illinois, in Mundelein. My buddy did the same thing with the vinyl copy, and I can't remember if it was Moni Moni or Pump Up the Jam. But he got so tired of people requesting that song all night long, he finally took it and just broke the record in two. The place I was working at, every time somebody walked in, they wanted to hear the Electric Slide. As soon as they walk in the door, can you play the Electric Slide? I got to the point I put a sign up. We had a 4:00 license. Last call was 3:30. I said, I put a sign in the DJ booth. I will play the Electric Slide at 3:20 a.m. I can't be playing that all night long every time somebody walks in the door.
We had the retired wall of vinyl in the DJ booth. Like, at a certain point when a song was that overplayed, we nailed the record to the wall. And if someone asked for it, nope, it's over there. And like at one of the alternative clubs, it was a list of things that you guys would like. Liaison Dangereux. No one would know that song except for a few of us from Chicago in the 80s.
Mm.
And that was on the wall. There was like Susie, The Cure. How Soon Is Now was on the forbidden list at Club 950.
Really?
You were not allowed to. Okay, alternative dance club. Everybody back then was playing the Smiths, and that was probably the most overplayed song because it wasn't like, all the other mushy. It was a dance track. But at a certain point, no one wanted to hear it anymore, and you'd have some clown DJ who'd come in to fill in a night, go for it. And the entire club would look at it and be like, really, dude? Can't you see the wall?
So, Pete, where did you get your records from? What was your sweet spot for records?
I was trying to remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of it. They had a store over on Algonquin Road down in Rolling Meadows. Super Dance.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I bought stuff there.
Super Dance.
Yes. Super Dance. I bought stuff there. Actually, one of my one of my Eurodance CDs that I listened to, I still listen to it, and yes, I still have some CDs. I bought it there, and it is like one of my favorite CDs because it's all these '90s hits, and I bought it in the '90s when I was there, looking at records. My couple places I went to, because I was on the far northwest side of the city, so Brickyard wasn't too far, so I'd go to Jumping Music, Julian Jumper Perez's place, and then Mark Ski Music for Euro and like a lot of the alternative dance tracks you'd have. But the fun thing was when you went to Jumping Music, he had house, he had acid house, but he had a great selection of freestyle too. He had a nice big freestyle rack. So I was picking stuff, picking especially Chicago freestyle stuff that people outside of Chicago didn't hear. That some people say, "Oh, that's not freestyle. That doesn't sound great." I'm like, sounds great to me. It's stuff that I listened to B96, and I started playing and spinning at when I did a party or something like that. So it's always funny where you get stuff from, but yeah, it's always those hidden little treasures like that. And unfortunately, you guys missed the fun buying vinyl, but this is why I don't have a problem when someone comes and asks for a song. I'm sorry, I don't have it because I got used to it with vinyl, and I know today a lot of people like they go searching, go blah, 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 see if they can find it. Sometimes I'm like, it's not fitting the mood. I'm sorry, I don't have it. I can't get it. You know, and
The
it's the
file's
same.
corrupted.
Yep. And it's just, I sometimes you gotta be a DJ and say, you know what? I have what I have. I have, you know, a terabyte of music. If I don't have it on here, maybe, just maybe, unless it's like a really super new track that I haven't gotten from Pool, from promo only, uh, or from one of the other sources. Maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't be playing it. That's maybe a question there.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm the same way because I'm a millennial. I grew up in the 2000s. I grew up with CDs. And when I did my first set of parties, my 8th birthday party, my brother's 6th birthday party, and whenever CD I had, that's what I played. And when I didn't have, I didn't play. So I'm in that same boat.
Yeah,
Well,
you
made a
don't
great
have the
point,
music,
buddy.
not the
If you
music.
don't, the new stuff, like when the day Sticky started trending on TikTok from Tyler the Creator, I heard it and I'm like, this is not going to go over. And I streamed, and then I get to the club that night, and like 4 people are like, you got to play Sticky. I'm like, you're kidding me. And I went for it, and wow, all 4 minutes of the song, everybody knew it word for. And I don't normally play a whole song out, but I downloaded it, didn't have my cue point set, so I couldn't quick mix it like I normally would, and I was floored. Everybody knew the whole 4-minute song and we're screaming it for all 4 minutes. So occasionally, yeah, we do have to download or stream on the fly, and I prefer to download it on the fly so I can, if I have 2 minutes to mark my cue points and even to skim it and look at the waveforms and hope they're close to right, I would rather do that.
What's the name of the song?
Sticky
from Tyler the Creator. Sexy Red is in it too, and somebody else, but yeah.
Tyler the Creator,
It's a song you couldn't picture as a club banger, but
Glorilla and Lil Wayne.
Yep.
So Tyler the Creator, I believe, if I remember correctly, I saw the lineup for Lollapalooza. I think he is one of the headliners. I know Korn is another one. I saw a bunch. Rodrigo's another one. I can't remember who else off the top of my head. There was a bunch. They released it for Lala.
They've got some great DJs this year. Knock 2, Two Friends, Garrix, Mau P. And that was just me skimming it real fast.
Well,
now I'm like, I booked the whole weekend again this year, so I can't leave.
Well, you know who they don't have? They don't have some great DJs. They don't have you. They don't have me. They don't have Pete. They don't have Chris. They don't have Hunter. They don't have Matt. They don't have Jeff. They don't have Dwayne. They don't have Fire. They don't have Nathan.
Tour, gentlemen. Time to go on tour.
I have to give some Lollapalooza love because somebody, if you're from Chicago or the Midwest, DJ Heather, she's an international DJ, but we both used to work at the same record store, the Record Exchange, and she's even on Lala this year. She's done like ARC. She's done the big house fests in downtown Chicago, in addition to going all over the world. But she's doing Lala this year. So hats off to a former coworker.
I guess you got to do some Heartbreak on vinyl now with the Bimbo Jones remix. I like that song. I love that song. Heartbreak on vinyl, the Bimbo Jones remix. That's a great, awesome hit.
The only Bimbo Jones remix I will ever play or I've ever really used is Who Knew from Pink.
I like that one too. Yep.
It's 124, and the girls will scream that Who Knew chorus, but you've only got one verse and one chorus, and then we're done.
The other one I like from Pink redone is I want to say it's Digital Doghouse. Is it Digital Doghouse? I can't remember. I want to say it's Digital Doghouse. I'm trying to draw a blank here on Funhouse is a song, but I want to say it's Digital Doghouse. I had to look what it is, but I know it has Digital and Dog in the remix one, but it's probably the best one I have. And actually, I got the video from Extended Mix. Extended Mix had the video with the right one, because a lot of people have a remix, but it's not the one that I like, and that's the one I really do like. Is I want to say it's Digital Dog. But anyways, Nathan came in. He's on his way back from a weather spotting course, so he can now tell us when the weather is bad down there in Central Illinois. So he went to go get for that. The other thing, I don't know if you guys saw or not, but he actually got his controller. So he has his controller now. So he got his Rain. And now he's got get a computer, and he's on the road to learning how to use a controller and to DJ that way. So we wish him lots of great luck on that. The
Super excited.
yeah, again, you worked hard for it. Now you got the money to put out for it. Now you're like the rest of us, you know. Really quickly before we leave, I wanted to see a show of hands. I'm gonna start with when I know the three of us started with vinyl. Brentley, myself, and Pete. I want to see a show of hands. Who started DJing on a CD DJ? DJing with CDs, with a CDJ or a CDJ
No.
DJ unit.
No
You use CDs to DJ, right? That's what you started with?
I still use CDs sometimes. Well, I don't say use CDs. I rip my CDs. So
I still got my Denon stuff that we'll do CDs, and
I was hooked on Denon. I mean,
CDs.
the first player that I touched was the old it wasn't a CDJ 500. Wasn't a CDJ. It was 500s. Really tiny little ones, just to practice on that. My other DJ friends had, and I immediately went out and bought a Denon DN 2500F. I bought two of them, so I've had two sets of gear.
Technically I started with CDs, but it was more of a boombox cassette radio combo that I started with.
Well, that's playing home, but I'm talking about professional to DJ. So
that's what I actually did for a party. I went out to a park that had a little building, and I brought my boombox.
Right, but you didn't mix it. You can't beat match that with the CDs off a CD player on a boombox. So that's what I'm saying. Now, Jeff, you started MP3. That's what you started with, the MP3 world.
No, I predate vinyl.
You predate vinyl. Come on now.
No,
reel to reel.
I actually started with cassettes.
There you go.
I had two cassette decks, and the reason being is for all of the dorm parties and frat parties that I did in college, it got pretty wild. And if I had turntables, nothing would have played. I mean, everything
would have been jumping all over the place.
It would have just gone all over the place. So I had two cassettes, and I got my music by borrowing all of my friends' albums and ripping onto the cassettes the songs that I thought that would be playable. So that's how I started.
There was, if I remember correctly, and you guys out there in the world can tell me if I'm wrong, but I thought there was like a couple professional tape deck players that you could actually mix with and adjust the timing like you can with vinyl.
Yeah, I think one was a Teak, or maybe a Pioneer. I think it was Teak had that option.
That's what
It
I'm
had a little
thinking of.
knob that you could adjust they called it pitch.
Yep.
But yeah, it's the same thing.
I had a Gemini dual cassette deck that had pitch control on it.
There you go. There's another one. Biasco Music. How many times you heard the radio commercial? Biasco Music in Chicago for DJ gear.
That's where I got my first rig.
Biasco Music. There you go. A
Two
little
PV
Chicago history.
115s and a CS 800 amp and two 1200s. And a 9072 AA mixer.
Oh God! What Biasco? They were out of business. What, in early 2000s, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or 2010s.
And this is just a great conversation to remind us all that we need colonoscopies.
I remember back in my day, and then Hunter,
And we had to drag all that equipment uphill in the snow.
Yep, both ways, uphill, both ways.
Both directions.
Yep.
You know what? When I worked in downtown Chicago, my main club was Poets, which is now Primary, and it's a flight down. So every Friday and Saturday, like Friday night, when I was there for Friday and Saturday, double park inside the club, rush all your records down a flight of stairs, and then go rush to find parking somewhere 8 blocks away, and then walk back, and then hope to remember where you parked your car when you were drunk at 5 a.m, leaving the club.
And
Much
then I
different
wasn't in a
because
tow zone.
much
You know what would
different
get-
nowadays.
Oh yeah, back then you could really screw up, and you'd have to actually hit somebody to get a DUI. Now they'll look at you funny and pull you over.
Not where I
They
lived.
got you.
Where I lived, I lived up in the 16th district. A lot of my neighbors were Chicago coppers, and yeah, you don't want to cause trouble in that area because they follow the rule book very, very strictly up in the 16th district. A lot of great officers work for Chicago police. I had a lot of my neighbors, firefighters. My dad worked for the state of Chicago. My brothers worked for the state of Chicago. A lot of my neighbors were cops and firemen and different agencies in the city. And that's the thing is that area up there, the far north side of the city was, and still pretty much is, very quiet because, again, you got people working very hard. They don't want to do anything. But it's like anything else. You have to look at what where everything is. Now, Hunter, you started with MP3, and Dwayne, you started with MP3, correct? Both of you guys?
Yep.
And I believe Matt did MP3s too, right? Matt, you started MP3s? Yep. So you three guys are the newest to the DJ area because, again, MP3s came out. The question is, what is the next, besides streaming, what is the next thing for music? Is streaming really going to be the thing? Is there going to be something else? It'd be interesting to see 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now what they're using for music and how they would back.
Yeah, I kind of know exactly how we're going to be DJing in the next decade. VR, because there's already an algorithm DJ Pro app on the MetaQuest, on the Vision Pro, and all these VR headsets. You can plug your controller directly into the headset and DJ with the headset.
Maybe we'll have to see. Time will tell. And speaking of time, we are out of it. I appreciate everyone there talking. I see a bunch of people talking. And I saw, I think it was Crossfire said pinch fingers on milk crates. Yeah, especially when they had the crack on the side and a couple of the little parts would go back and forth.
Yeah.
You move it and you pinch your finger between the crack and the base of the milk crate. Yeah, just not fun.
Well, the days, the joys.
You know who else started on vinyl? Grandmaster Flash.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and Cool Heart, African Bambaataa, all those original DJs from the Bronx in the 70s.
Yeah, and also you can start getting into, Bad Boy Bill, Tin Spin Shomer. Let's see here, Julian Jumper Perez. Well, who else can go down for B96? And then before that, even when you go to GCI before that with DJs, you got Chicago has a very deep route. And here's the thing, house music started here in Chicago. So with that said, we're going to continue on and go on with the night. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight, having fun here. Tonight, I'm actually going to have Brentley, you want to take us home and bring this mothership in?
Well, thanks everybody for tuning into the DJ Roundtable. Tune in next week for more conversation, more tips. Thanks a lot, everybody, and have a great night and great week.
Peace.
Good night, everyone.